Last night, the capital of the aggressor country was attacked by dozens of drones. Mobile groups armed with machine guns were spotted on Red Square near the Moscow Kremlin. Residents of towns near Moscow reported loud explosions on social media. The Domodedovo and Zhukovsky airfields temporarily suspended operations. On Sunday, a fire broke out at an oil depot in Serpukhov near Moscow. The largest concentration of air defense systems is around Moscow. According to researchers and open source information, the Russian capital is surrounded by 2 rings of air defense positions. The outer ring consists of long-range S-300 and S-400 systems, while the inner ring is made up of Panzer missile and gun systems. Ihor Chalenko, head of the Center for Analysis and Strategy, was with us live and is currently there. Ihor, if Muscovites are saying that this is very frightening, then for us Ukrainians, is it just a minor thing? So let's assess this. If they report it officially, they never actually state the exact number of drones shot down, but this morning, their Ministry of Defense said that 193 UAVs were shot down. So is this really a light story after all? Or is it actually not such a light story, even for their own regions?
It's definitely not a light story, especially since, according to their own Ministry of Aggression, every 5th drone was headed directly toward the capital region, directly toward Moscow itself. By the way, this isn't the first time that the Russians themselves have recorded more than 40 Ukrainian drones heading toward Moscow. So we're actually testing the capabilities to bypass specifically the capital's air defense system, which they currently have deployed there. But we understand that all of this is, in fact, specific retaliatory strikes and probing actions. Probing indeed to see how a more effective combined strike can be delivered. And this has a very serious and distinctly anti-propaganda effect directly for the Kremlin, which, let me remind you, one of the reasons for starting the so-called special military operation was, according to Putin and his circle, the issue of security guarantees for the Russian Federation itself. Well, we see that the war is coming directly to Moscow, and the Muscovites themselves see this, and not only the Muscovites. We see that indeed the geography of Ukraine's drone attacks is expanding, but it still mainly focuses on logistics, military facilities, oil refining complexes, and energy infrastructure as a response to what is being inflicted on us. So we are not changing our approach right now, but the number is indeed increasing. Even the Russians themselves are recording that we can launch over 200 drones in a single night, because obviously they will downplay and underestimate the actual number that was really in their skies. And we have repeatedly seen that what the Russians reported as destroyed as a target hit in the sky usually ended up being hit by some additional processing unit at an oil refinery or something else like that. Therefore, here we need to additionally wait for data specifically on the results from this particular night.
And according to this morning's information, another piece of news, though we won't pay too much attention to it, but still, in Russia, they are planning to review the social norm for electricity consumption. In other words, this norm will be lowered. It may seem like a minor detail, but now fewer subsidies will be given. The reduction in the electricity norm will most likely be adopted, and this means they are trying to save on everything, that Russia's spending is not limitless. The next question I want to ask you is about Moscow's air defense systems, the S-300 and S-400. How many of them do they actually have? I mean, is this the outer ring of Russia's defense? So are they going to strengthen it or not? Do they have the resources for that or not? So will this Soviet system, the layered defense, continue to function, and will they keep relying on what they already have?
Well, they're also bringing in additional Panzer systems directly. And here's the nuance. Earlier, they moved everything directly to the front lines, to the front, plus the protection of huge buildings like Putin's residences, whether in Valdai or elsewhere. And in doing so, by the way, they actually weakened the air defense of the Russian Federation itself. Now, however, they realize that their capital could be the main target, so they are pulling everything back. Well, on the one hand, this should be a good thing because there will be fewer opportunities, for example, at the front. But I think that most likely they'll be pulling these from somewhere in the Far East. And well, in any case, they still have a serious shortage in this regard. We've already seen, for example, when the Russian Federation refused to supply air defense systems to Iran for the same reason, because they themselves are lacking. So it's obvious that one of the top priorities will be to destroy all these systems, which are now not only being actively deployed around Moscow, but we've seen them being placed almost on pedestals and raised platforms and so on. Basically, they're just being shot at by drones left and right. So I think they've exposed themselves, and there's no way they'll be able to quickly make up for the shortage to compensate for this air defense deficit that Russia is facing today. So we understand that the situation that unfolded, for example, in temporarily occupied Crimea, where we effectively cleared out the first layer of the Russian air defense system, could very well repeat itself directly in the Moscow region.
And I'd like us to return to Ukraine so that you personally could say, how do you analyze the situation that's happening in Pokrovsk?
Well, the situation is difficult. We can see that what's really happening is, in fact, drone control by the enemy. Unfortunately, the skies are under their control. But at the same time, our military is doing everything possible to stabilize the situation. There are problems in Pokrovsk itself. According to various sources, the general staff reports about 200 Russians, while other media sources say around 250. Well, the point is the same. The point is that Russians can infiltrate in small groups. This creates problems. But at the same time, I want to note that actions for deoccupation and clearing of territories are also being carried out in Donetsk region wherever possible. Just in the past week, about 430 square kilometers of territory have been liberated in this way. As for the Pokrovsk-Mirnograd agglomeration specifically, it is clear that the focus there will still be on preserving the lives of our servicemen. And on the other hand, of course, to hold the line as much as possible to the greatest extent possible. The Russians definitely won't have an easy fight there.
Thank you, Ihor. Ihor Chelenko, head of the Center for Analysis and Strategy, was with us live.
The strike on the dam of the Belgorod reservoir was carried out by Ukrainian forces, specifically by fighters of the 1st Separate Center of Unmanned Systems Forces. This was reported by the commander of the Unmanned Systems Forces, Robert Madyar Brody. He posted the corresponding video on his Telegram channel and stated that as a result of the strike, the water level dropped by 1 meter. The commander of the Unmanned Systems Forces added that as a result of the attack on the dam, Russian dugouts in the area of the village of Rafivka in Belgorod region were flooded.
Ukrainian defenders repelled 124 enemy assaults over the past day, with Pokrovsk coming under especially heavy fire. The enemy targeted with missiles from both land and air. In particular, just from the air, they dropped more than 200 aerial bombs along the entire front line in a single day. The enemy army launched 6,000 drones and shelled Ukrainian positions more than 4,000 times. And the most relentless, according to the General Staff reports, is their shelling on the Pokrovsk sector. There, up to 40 battles take place in a single day. And all of them, our defenders repel up to 20 assaults daily, also in the Kostiantynivka, Oleksandrivka, and northern Slobozhansky directions. The occupiers are trying to push forward in the north of Donetsk region, in the areas of Huliaipol, Kramatorsk, and Kupiansk, practically everywhere. However, the defense forces are not only holding back the offensive, but are also pushing the enemy back with tactical strikes in their rear.